Madara is one of the most iconic antagonists in all of fiction, period. And his namesake itself struck fear into anyone unlucky enough to face this man in battle. So much so that his disciple Obito Uchiha was able to scare the entire world into uniting together just so that they could have a chance against the infamous Madara Uchiha and the seven-tailed beasts he'd gathered. To put this into better perspective, the 5 Kage summit was called up by A, who just did so to berate the other Kage for their rogue ninjas' involvement in the Akatsuki. No one trusted the other, and yet, once Madara showed up, they decided to create the allied shinobi force in order to stand a chance against the legend, with even Tsunade stating that just the name itself is power, and how they'd all been played when they find out that the man behind the mask was a fake, and the real Madara has been revived. Now, how strong Madara is a contentious and lengthy question to answer, and it of course depends on, which version of Madara. Since Madara receives significant amps as the story progresses, and every time he gets absurdly more powerful. However, I'm not here to answer that question today. What I'm more interested in is discussing Madara's insatiable hunger for battle and conflict, and how unparalleled his love for fighting is when compared to every other shinobi. Going back to his humble beginnings, and you kinda understand a bit more about why Madara is the way he is. Being born into one of the 2 strongest clans in the Land of Fire, the clans that pretty much everyone would hire to wage shinobi battle on their behalf, it was almost inevitable for Madara to become the war-loving maniac we know him as. Even as a child, before awakening his Sharingan, Madara was stated to have fought and killed adults from the Senju clan. Of course, having his brother Izuna around and his friendship with Hashirama grounded Madara a bit. And while he was more than capable of fighting, he shared Hashirama's dream of a peaceful era in which children weren't sent to the front lines. Both him and Hashirama could sympathize with one another, since they've both lost siblings to the endless conflicts that is the Warring States era. However, as time would pass, and each would become the leader of their respective clans, which means that they would engage in a lot more conflicts, Madara would eventually lose his last remaining sibling. Now, the only thing standing between Madara and total darkness was his childhood friend Hashirama, who was also the only person that could not only face Madara in battle for several days, but also eventually defeat him. Even though Madara had joined Hashirama in a ceasefire, and both their clans integrated in order to create the Hidden Leaf village, we know that this peace would be short-lived, as Madara peeps in on Hashirama and Tobirama's conversation, which plants seeds of doubt in Madara, as he now views the alliance as quiet conflict rather than actual peace. Madara's doubts get reinforced by the altered content of the Uchiha Stone Tablet, as well as the subsequent rejection of his clansmen, and is what pushes Madara to go rogue, and focus on what's now become his favorite pastime, fighting. Before Madara could put his Project Tsukinome plans into motion, he decided to engage his rival Hashirama in one last confrontation, something that he was really excited for, stimulated at the thought of facing his rival one last time. This time he was coming in with full force, and he brings the 9-tailed fox, who's completely subdued to Madara's genjutsu. This fight has been foreshadowed since the first final valley battle between Naruto and Sasuke, a battle of epic proportions. Finally, 400 chapters later. The game rendition of the battle also shows us Madara's Mangekyo ability, where he can rewind time by a few seconds. It is arguable whether it's canon, but we don't really see his MS ability any other time. I've seen some people think it's Limbo, but based on the fact that his Limbo clones increased to 4 when he got the second Renegon, I think it makes it clear that Limbo is a Renegon ability. Even though Hashirama is considered to be superior to Madara, they're still in the same weight class. However, once Madara wraps his Susanoo around the 9 tails, Hashirama can't do much but run and dodge. Meanwhile, Madara is having the time of his life as he launches Bijou bombs to the other side of the river, symbolic of when him and Hashirama would throw stones across the river as kids during their childhood. I guess this is what made Hashirama see how detached Madara really was. It was no longer an argument between friends. The village's safety was at stake. And that's what finally makes him go all out and summon the 1,000-armed Buddha statue. Now the real battle was beginning. This battle would go on for days. But we know that eventually Hashirama would trick Madara with a wood clone and kill Madara. Little did you know. Okay, now let's jump like 100 years in the future to the 4th Shinobi War, where Kabuto plays his trump card and revives Madara Uchiha. Kabuto really thought he had the allied shinobi by the balls, when in reality he was just as fucked as they were. As now there was no Hashirama, no one could really contest this menace, let alone defeat him. Madara couldn't even wait. He'd just been revived for a few moments, and he ran in headfirst against an entire army of shinobi from all over the 5 great nations. Fighting was like crack for Madara. He couldn't get enough of it. And one thing you notice is that Madara always gives his opponent the opportunity to use their strongest techniques. You'll notice he's only throwing hands and starts using weapons once they're using weapons, and doesn't use any ninjutsu until Temari uses a wind style attack, and he doesn't use the Susanoo until Naruto uses high level ninjutsu. And the entire time Madara's going ham. He's like a machine. Bodies are dropping left to right, and if this guy wasn't broken enough, he also awakens the Rinnegan and drops 2 big balls, meteors, and basically kills everyone that's not an on-screen character. All of this is Madara just messing around and trying out his new powers, kind of like a test drive for the Rinnegan. Madara would then go on to reveal that he's implanted some of the first Hokage's DNA and can now use the wood style as well, as if the Rinnegan wasn't enough. Just a quick reminder to subscribe if you find this video enjoyable, that way you don't miss out on when I post, and I get a bigger incentive to make videos, so everybody wins. And basically no one can stand up to him. So the 5 Kage gather all heroic, like, oh, we're gonna defeat this enemy. Like, bruh. Madara's excited. He's like, oh cool, I can try out all my new techniques. And then he proceeds to break the Kage's will repeatedly. Anoki's carrying the entire time. If it wasn't for him, the Kage would have died multiple times. Also, some people fail to notice that Madara was just toying with the Kage the entire time. You see, Madara loves a good fight more than anyone. So throughout the battle, Madara keeps using large-scale jutsu, like roasting them alive after poisoning them with the deep forest bloom, or making 25 wood clones use Susanoo, because he wants the Kage to go all out and use their full strength, so that he could face some sort of challenge. Of course, as we know, Madara's on a completely different level, someone that the Kage can't even be compared to. And I've seen some people that think that the Kage actually stood a chance, or were countering Madara at moments, but not really. When he was hit with the particle style, it was just to show off Hashirama's face. When he almost gets sealed, it was a wood clone. And even when they have him backed in a corner, using all of their strengths combined at 100%, he still had the perfect Susanoo and busted out like it was nothing. In the end, the Kage didn't stand a chance, and they bored him so much he went to look for a fight elsewhere. Quick montage of Madara talking shit to the Kage.
Hashirama, I don't know exactly what it is that you've left to all your followers, but this falls short of your abilities. If you are going to let your underlings take over, you should have at least taught them how to resurrect you.
Weakness of any kind completely revolts me. A weak Senju disgusts me even more.
I have one question for you. Would you prefer for all of these clones to use Susanoo against you, or not? The choice is yours. What adult would go full force when fighting mere children?
Yeah, he flamed them. But anyways, getting back. Now Madara's joined up with Obito, looking for better enemies that could actually put up a fight. And he might have better luck here. Naruto has teamed up with Kurama and unlocked a new form. But even with that, he can't really damage Madara. And Madara even manages to restrain him with the wooden dragon. Though then the Ten Tails is revived and Madara and Obito get on top, and Obito tells Madara to cool it and that he's the main villain now. Madara's just like, okay, and he just kinda chills and follows Obito's plan. While he's watching the allied shinobi force get crushed, Madara senses a familiar chakra, and then he just loses it. I wouldn't be surprised if he was hard down there. I don't think I've seen a character get this excited before. First off, can we talk about how he was able to sense Hashirama the moment he was revived? He must have been like countries away. Anyways, Madara's beyond excited to experience Hashirama's stiff wood style jutsu again. The first Hokage eventually joins the battle, and even though he initially blows off Madara, much to Madara's dismay, they eventually battle each other again. They seem to be relative, even though Madara had both the Rinnegan and Hashirama cells implanted. Hashirama's still holding his own. I mean, to be fair, Hashirama cells are the first Hokage's genes. But anyways, the battle ends in sort of a stalemate. Madara's bound by the wood dragon and Hashirama's impaled with the Rinnegan rods. And now with the sealing team underway, it seemed like Madara's little wank sesh was over. But little did they know that it was just beginning. As when he revives himself at the expense of Obito, Madara puts a new meaning to the word menace. Madara is able to use the Rinnegan rods to paralyze Hashirama, and once he steals his Sage Chakra, Madara is ready to face the nine-tailed beasts while blind. But it doesn't matter, he can still use Susanoo, he can sense them using Sage Mode, even after the tailed beasts use combination attacks and make him lose his arm. That's all Madara just testing his new body and Hashirama's Sage powers. He even tastes his own blood and is thrilled to have his real body back so that he could, in his own words, finally fully experience battle again. Madara's hunger for fighting was something else. And just to show that he's not all talk, he one-shots all the Bijou with his cross-dimensional limbo clones. Like it wasn't broken enough. And once he summons the Ghetto Mazo, he's able to seal all the tailed beasts in with no effort and rip the 8 and 9 tails right out of their jinchuriki. He also makes light work of Tobirama and Sasuke. Like, Tobirama gets off-screened and Sasuke gets held up into the air and stabbed in the heart. Madara didn't waste any time. He then becomes the 10 tails jinchuriki with no effort. Like, remember when Obito had to gain his composure in order to control the 10 tails? Madara just absorbed it and was like, huh, so that's how the 10 tails powers work. Cool. And now he had just finished Hashirama, Tobirama, Naruto, Sasuke, and all the tailed beasts. He decided to go get his other eye and maybe try to find a challenge along the way. Madara's received pretty much the most broken power-up that one could receive, becoming the Jinchuriki of the full 10 tails, unlike Obito's incomplete one. So there really aren't many people that can challenge Madara, but luckily for the allied shinobi force, Might Guy hears that only taijutsu works against him and he accepts the challenge. Even if he's just stalling for Naruto and Sasuke to recover, Guy is actually the only one around that could face Madara. And Madara himself, noting how rare the 8 gates are, gladly accepts, finally facing a challenge. He's been dog walking everyone so far, it's about time. Madara's also being generous to Guy, and while he's not just standing there, he's also not taking the fight very seriously. He doesn't use the limbo clones, for example, and is more so fighting to experience the gates than to defeat Guy. He even praises Guy and tells him he's the best taijutsu fighter and is the first since Hashirama to push him to that extent. But even when Guy lands the Night Guy on Madara, he just laughs it off. A combination of the 10 tails and Hashirama's healing powers is able to regenerate all the damage he's dealt. And now that he's had some fun, he was ready to end Guy. But little did he know that he was gonna face his toughest challengers yet. Naruto and Sasuke are the first to actually put this guy in his place. And they actually scare Madara enough that he has to retreat to the Kamui space to retrieve his other eye. Once Madara's back though, he's ready to throw hands, and by this point, he's beyond godly. Now he has 4 Limbo clones instead of 1, and can launch multiple meteorites from the sky. However, as time draws near, Madara has to do something first before fighting these guys. The Infinite Tsukuyomi is activated, Sasuke shields Team 7 from its effects, and Madara returns to fight Team 7. And he's super excited to do so, but before he could get to it, he gets stabbed. Yeah, that's it. Goodbye, Madara. He's caused enough destruction as is, I guess. He had to be taken out somehow. Most people avoided conflict, but Madara lived to fight. And he got super excited and stimulated whenever there was a battle. And he excelled at it too. He'd let his opponents use the fullest extent of their power, just so that he could taste the full experience of battle, which he called dancing. He literally saw fighting as a dance. It was like his hobby. Of course, he was usually disappointed most of the times, and only a few ever really came close to challenging him, like Hashirama, Might Guy, Naruto and Sasuke at the end. Other than that, he was uncontested. Madara was basically wanked beyond belief, until he wasn't, and was just a vessel in the end. How sad. Talk about being done dirty. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe to see more content like this, and peace out.